it well. Played it very, very, very well indeed.
No more slices for you.
Oh, look at that for judgment.
You'll learn.
So I'm going to start episode 17, it says here in front of me, of Slice, by just pleading for more likes, comments, ratings, reviews. They really make a big difference. We have to climb the golf podcast chart so more people hear about us, more people listen, and we can keep doing this forever because we're having a good time. Sam, hello. I'm back from Wales. My legs still ache because I climbed down Snowdon, but I'm fine. I'm good. I'm ready to go. And yeah, it's nice to have a fairly quiet week in golf to reintroduce myself.
So
How are you?
Just down, but not up.
We got the train up, Sam.
Okay. I didn't even know there was a train. I've never been there. I didn't realize you could get a train up. So that's good to know.
It's steeply priced, but well worth it. I would recommend it. And I have to say, that part of North Wales, where I've not spent a lot of time, was absolutely gorgeous. We had a really nice time. But my legs really ache.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We've got a slightly different episode today because we're doing what they call a mailbag. I don't know if that's a term that we've sort of appropriated from our American friends, but it basically just means we're answering some questions that people have sent in. So thank you to everyone who has. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But first, I will start with kind of going into a review of last week's events. We will start with the Hainan Classic, which Marco Penge won. I was going to say, Ben, which I normally do, did you watch much of this? But of course, you didn't watch much of this because it wasn't. There was no coverage of it, so yeah. Did you follow it on the leaderboard?
Yeah, it was quite nice in some ways. Apart from the time of day that all this took place, I sort of didn't mind refreshing the leaderboard and thinking, you know what, I don't need to refresh it again for a half an hour. I'm not sure I stuck to that rule, but I do think there's a Sky need to be better. I have to say, a lot of people I know and like at Sky Sports, and it won't have been any of their decision, but I don't understand their policy of just let's not say anything and let's just hope nobody notices this golf tournament is not on the TV, because everyone who watches golf every week is going to notice. They pay a heck of a lot of money and they're entitled to the respect, I think, of, I'm sorry, logistical issues like Hainan's an island in China. I'm sure we all could give them a pass. But I only want to give them a pass after they've told me. I think pretending there's no problem or whatever is really poor on their part. And I hope someone at Sky hears this and thinks, do you know what? It would have been way better if we just said, sorry, no TV coverage this week. We're back in Turkey. But I'm glad Marco Penge won, Sam. That was good.
Yeah, well, two things. So firstly, I agree with your point. They should definitely acknowledge it. But also, I would say, and obviously I love our friends at the DP World Tour, but I would say it wouldn't take a whole lot for them to do a few tweets here and there, maybe on the final day, final few holes, Marco Penge is in the fairway, or that type of thing. I know we talked about it last week with the Corn Ferry Tour, but it just doesn't need much, You just need someone following the final group and maybe the second final group and just doing a few tweets. I don't know.
Totally. There can't have been a camera there because they have not posted I think they posted some videos, interviews though, didn't they? So they must have had a camera set up sort of at the media thing. But there was one great tweet where it was like, course design, I can't remember who designed the course, but so-and-so is thrilled to be sharing his design with the world. Like, well, none of us have seen it, pal. Like, it's not been on anything. There's not a single video of this golf course that I can find anywhere. So to tweet there that he's here we go. Course designer Brian Curley is delighted to see his masterpiece showcased to the world. It's not been showcased to anyone, pal. Like you've been shortchanged there. Hopefully they get to it at some stage because it looks a remarkable golf course. I think it was actual lava in one point, but yeah.
That's a shame we didn't get to see it. I will say with Marco Penge, obviously well done on getting a nice winner on him, Ben. I sadly taught myself out of him on price for price reasons, which I obviously shouldn't have done. And I will learn from that. But I would say a good friend of mine, Simon Bruff, sent over a little factoid, which I thought I'd share. It was a very good day for Horsham, the town in West Sussex, because Horsham FC were promoted from the Isthmian Premier League to the National League South yesterday, just a few hours after Marco Penge, who was born in Horsham, won the Hainan Classic. So
wow, what a day for Horsham. And on that, this is a bit tangential, but I was listening to 5 Live on the way home from Wales, that was it, Sunday, yeah. And they were talking to people from the town of Zwolle, wherever it is, which is where Arne Slot's from, the Liverpool manager. And they were talking to them like this was some sort of Mongolian mountain village. Like there were only 12 people lived in this village. It's like, what does this mean to the people of Zwolle? And I looked into this, and it's about the same size as Cambridge. So when someone from Cambridge achieves something in other countries around the world, the people go, oh, what do the people of Cambridge think? Because if they did, I think the answer would be, well, they think many different things. The myriad people of Cambridge and their many cultures and whatever. And it just struck, it was a really weird thing that we do in Britain, I think. We talk about certain other countries like they're a little bit silly and some sort of joke. And I think the Netherlands and Belgium and a few of those countries is really bad. We shouldn't at all. But in the media, sometimes like, oh, those silly little people from the Netherlands. I wonder, they must be so proud. And yeah, maybe everyone in Horsham is thrilled for both Marco Penge and Horsham FC. I would say more of them as a percentage than the people of Zwolle were thrilled for Arne Slot, their first ever famous person, I'm sure.
Possibly so. We should acknowledge Marco Penge as well, because I sort of sometimes take it for granted that we sort of know these things, but not necessarily everyone will. He was banned just before Christmas for betting on golf events, because obviously that's you're not allowed to do that. Marco obviously didn't realise that, and he'd had a few bets, not on any tournaments that he was playing in. He's had a few majors, Ryder Cup, that type of thing. And there were some facts which I thought was interesting. So he bet a few bets placed with an average stake of £24, total profit of £250. I thought, he could have a decent career as a tipster if things don't go well on the pro golf front.
Presumably stopped because he could no longer get a bet on. But who knows? Yeah, and do you know what? It comes back to the same thing about Sky Sports pretending that the Hainan Classic was actually on TV. Earlier on this season, when he was playing in South Africa, it's like, oh, he's back from a bit of a break. Why don't you just say he's back from a ban? He was banned because he bet on golf. You're not allowed to do that. Just say that. Your audience are not mugs. They're not idiots. And it was the same again, we love the people at DP World Tour. Their report has in parentheses, there was like an interview where he said, oh, I changed everything during my break. And it said in brackets, I think it had the words enforced absence or something like that. He didn't pull a hamstring. He had 24 quid on the Corn Ferry Tour or whatever it was. But look, the DP World Tour rightly are very serious, very strict with their policies about players and caddies betting on golf. Not allowed to do it at all. The number of times a caddy or a player has been reluctant to speak to me, not because I'm not charming and fun to speak to, but because it's to do with betting. So he will have learnt a lesson there, but it's not a serious thing that he did. He just made a mistake. And yeah, I know we say it every time someone wins, Sam, but Marco Penge hits it forever. Like, he's in the ultra-long category, and he's one of the best putters on the DP World Tour. And in the modern game, that takes you a long way. And what happens with these players is when they dial in their approaches just for a few days, they do good things. And I thought it was interesting. The strokes gain data the last few weeks has been ropey. Don't trust it. Yannick De Bruyne is not the best iron player ever. But it is interesting to hear Marco Penge, whose stats are improved, say that he felt his approaches were sort of the thing that have got him the extra yard, So good player.
Yeah, that's a good note. And a good win. And I'm glad. It's always good to see an Englishman win, and could well be the first of many. I'll move on to the Zurich Classic. Now, did you watch much of this, Ben?
No.
Because I did, and can I just tell you, I have a problem with not watching golf. Basically, I can't not watch it. So, ordinarily, most events I watch to the conclusion, right? Yesterday was going to be an exception. I thought, you know what? Novak and Griffin had about a 3-shot lead. It's getting quite late. You know what? I could do with a slightly early night. I'm going to go to bed. And then, I some reason started looking at the Chevron a little bit because it was going to a 5-person playoff. I thought, oh, I've got to watch a bit of that. Of course, that didn't last that long, and I thought I'll just go back and look at the Zurich, and back from the weather suspension, and suddenly Knapp and Sapin, who I had a bet on, were suddenly tied for the lead. And I thought, well, now I've got to wait. I've got to watch the whole bloody thing now. So then ended up being another late one, which is probably why you see bags under my eyes. But it was a good finish. It was obviously I was disappointed having had a bet on Knapp and Sapin to see Sapin hit it in the water on 17. It was just a horrible way for them to bow out on what was a good challenge. But Novak and Griffin, it was a good win. And actually, it's interesting because when you look back to the Zurich Classic before it was a team event, which I'm sure you remember, it was one of those tournaments where maiden winners, it kept throwing up maiden winners, didn't it? There were several. And obviously Novak and Griffin, you probably have down as two of the best sort of non-winners up until yesterday. So, yeah.
And it's second time in 3 years that an all maiden pairing has won it. Like before then, it looked like a bit of experience because foursomes was really hard, and a bit of experience and not being scared of the moment when you're hitting shots on behalf of someone else felt like it could be important. But that's two of the last three. Have both been maidens, Nick Hardy and Davis Riley. The others, yeah. I mean, Novak missed an 8-foot putt to win the RBC Heritage a week before. I suppose he found it a nice way to carry on. You know, it could have been, if that was a solo tournament, maybe it would have been a bit hard for him to get going. They hold from off the green a lot, didn't they? You know, it's a really, really fickle game, and there's a lot of random in the Zurich Classic. So, yeah, I'm sorry that you're extended evening. It's the worst one, isn't it? You almost like, in retrospect, I wish they'd just made an 8 on the first, and then I could have just gone to bed and we can move on to next week. But when they give you that hope and then it disappears, and when it disappears in such, sorry, I don't know why I'm doing this to you. It disappears in such a final way as a ball in the water, which I did see on the shot tracker. But yeah, good performance by two very tidy players. And we'll see where they end up at the end of the year. You know, I know Andrew Novak was talking Ryder Cup. What chance do you give him?
Yeah, well, yeah. So this was on Ryan French is Any Given Monday podcast last week. You know, after losing out on the Heritage, and he said, and this surprised me actually. He said, for 4 or 5 years I've had it circled as something I wanted to be ready to give it a run at, and I think for us as sort of, you know, as a third party, kind of looking at it and think, how ridiculous was that for, you know, 4 years ago for Andrew Novak, ranked 400 in the world, to be, you know, circling, you know, the Ryder Cup at Bethpage on his calendar. But ultimately, these players have hopes and dreams, and they're better than we probably give them credit for. And he's definitely got a chance if he can keep playing to the sort of level he has over the last few weeks. There's no reason why he shouldn't be on the team.
He's one of those, isn't he, who like he'll have to play really well. It's a bit like Laurie Cantor. When we spoke to him, he wanted to downplay his chances a little bit. I don't know if he'd circled Bethpage 5 years ago. I doubt it. But like the players with that sort of profile who are not binning calculations from day one, if you're Keegan Bradley or Luke Donald, they have to be so good. Like he can't really afford a dip. He may well need to win again, but he's given himself a chance, and that I think he's developed quite quickly actually into a really, really solid all-round player. We said it last week, didn't we? And you go back to last year, like his stats were really good. He just a lot of sort of 8th to 20th finishes. And it's probably a thing to look for. I always remember it with a slightly random one, but Hudson Swafford before his breakthrough win. Like he'd made so many cuts and he just showed that there was something there. And Novak had certainly done that. He wasn't a surprise for anyone. The final thing to say about the Zurich for me really is that is 6 of the 8 winners now have been very prominent in the market. Although there is a lot of random baked in, there are not many teams who are realistic winners. Well done for finding one at a big price that were good enough to go and contend. And I'm sure that will continue. It's a hard.
Ultimately, when it comes down to the foursomes, that's where the cream rises, isn't it? I mean, any of them can go out and shoot a 59, you know, when they're doing 4-ball. But suddenly, when you've got, you know, you're an alternate shot, and you've got someone who's maybe, well, in Sapin's case, you know, he's leaking a lot of drives to the left. Actually, they got quite lucky to actually still be in the mix, you know, down the stretch, because they had a couple of ones that could have easily racked up a double bogey. But yeah, those sort of the really good teams are going to rise to the top in that, and that's why I think you get those sort of short price winners quite often in this. But you will get top 5. You know, there's a good opportunity for sort of each way, you know, sort of 200 to 1 shots. You know, you saw it last year, didn't you, with Trainer and Ramey? So yeah, it's an interesting event, but I like it, and it's something different. And we'll come back to this on one of our mailbag questions later on. So the next event to talk about, the LPGA Chevron Championship, and I have to make an apology here, because last week when we were running through our schedule of, you know, what's on this week in golf, I just sort of glossed past it like it was a normal LPGA event, not really acknowledging that it was indeed a major championship. And I apologise for that, Ben.
Well, doesn't it reveal so much about the event, Sam? I don't think you should be too hard on yourself. I didn't pick up on it. We've said before, like, neither of us are specialists in women's golf. That's just, we have, Matt Cooper's going to come on later in the year, hopefully, and talk about some of the other majors. But this just doesn't feel like a major. And I suppose when thinking back about the men's game and the idea of a fifth major, which you and I have talked about before, maybe that says much about what the problem is if you were to add one. Like, how do you make it immediately feel like one? And this, for me, like, one, it's no major should be known by a sponsor's name. Like, if you're calling it the Chevron, you've got a problem immediately.
That's
right?
part of the issue. Yeah.
No major should have a backboard on the 18th green. It's just ridiculous that they have that there. It's just such a joke that players are going, and especially in the women's game, where they can't, if that's Rory McIlroy hitting into a 200-yard hole, it doesn't matter that there's a backboard there, unless he's in the rough or whatever. The backboard doesn't really matter. He can land it and stop it. But when they're hitting hybrids and three woods flatter, and they're going through the green, and that's a calculation they have to make, it should be a decision. Do I want to do that? What's the chip like if I go 30 yards long? Instead, it's, well, just hit it into. It is a complete and utter joke. It undermines it so much. You can't say it strongly enough. At least I can't. That should not be part of any major championship. And the course itself is not great, is it? I'm sure it's a lovely place, and people who are members at the Woodlands, I'm sure you're very well looked after. But it lacks everything you need to be a major championship. What it didn't lack, though, was a really, really good finish.
A great finish. Yeah. Well, it was interesting. So. Beth Nichols, Golf Week, she did a report on this, on why it's sort of a bad major venue, and there's several factors that and one of which is that it's not an easy course to walk, sort of, if you're a fan, and because of that reason, it's sort of, the holes are so sort of spread out, you end up with a very sort of thin crowd, which doesn't really, visually when you're watching it on TV, it doesn't feel like a major. It's not a particularly inspiring course, and I think the general consensus is it was better when it was at Mission Hills. But yeah, the whole title sponsor thing. I mean, in my mind, at least call it, I don't know, the Ladies PGA sponsored by Chevron or something. I don't know. It just Chevron Championship doesn't sound. It just sounds like a run of the mill LPGA event. I know that we're kind of, I know it's not the biggest thing in the world, but in terms of the backboarding, I completely agree. It was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and Jutanagan then went on to sort of duff a chip, almost completely miss a chip shot, which I thought was sort of poetic justice in a way, having just backboarded it, and then she went on to make bogey, and when she should have won outright really at that point. But it was a great five-person playoff. So. Yeah, no,
Ronnie in three putting from about 15 feet. She had eagle to win, and she's not even extended the playoff. So Mao Saigo was the winner of a five-person playoff. I mean, you would have struggled to see that coming. I think she'd been 63rd and missed the cut in two previous starts of the course. Her only recent form was reaching the last 16 of the match play a few weeks ago, but she missed the cut the week before in California. Done nothing really since the tour had returned to the States. She was the LPGA Rookie of the Year last year. She had pedigree, but I she'd have been a big price, and you'd have done well to find her. But it was a great finish, but undermined totally by everything else about the event. They need to think again.
Yep, agreed. Last event to mention, quickly, or two more events to mention, sorry. So the Corn Ferry Tour is the Veritex Bank Championship, which Johnny Kiefer won 30 under par. Yeah, I'm not a fan, as you know, Ben, of these type of extremely low-scoring events. Neither is Alistair Doherty, who missed a cut on the number, actually, and he tweeted, dumbest event on the Corn Ferry Tour, putting contest on shit greens.
I like that. It's nice and poetic, that. Yeah, I think there's a bigger issue, and we haven't really got time to discuss it, but I always think of that advert with Scotty Scheffler's dad for the Corn Ferry Tour, and he says something like, I always knew he was good enough on the PGA Tour, for the PGA Tour. I just didn't know if he could get there. And the point being that they're trying to say, the Corn Ferry Tour is so competitive, but really, it's flatter than it should be. Scotty Scheffler over a season on the Corn Ferry Tour should be so far clear at the top. The fact that he wasn't, the fact that Xander Schauffele only just got in the last spot, didn't he, might have something to do with the fact they're shooting 30 under every week. And it's far too often. Like, if this was a one-off event, then fine, but it's not. Like, every year we expect at least 159 on the Corn Ferry Tour, don't we? And I just don't know to what extent it prepares people for the PGA Tour, but more to the point, I don't know as if it's a great tour for identifying the players that should be on the PGA Tour in the first place. And you probably end up with a few players stuck on there who are a bit better than that grade, and some getting promoted who are just not really good enough for the PGA Tour. So the Corn Ferry Tour also needs to improve. Certainly events like that. Johnny Kiefer, though, very good player from Texas, favourite. A lot of people will have been on him.
Yeah. Last event to quickly mention, Live Mexico, Joaquin Niemann wins again. That's 5 events this year, and his 18th worldwide win, Ben. I have to say, after
Chile
our conversation.
Tour legend. The man is a Chile Tour legend. Yeah, look, we probably don't need to go over the thing with Joaquin. He's at a crossroads. He's got to go and do it in tournaments that matter more. And I would say the same if you had someone on the PGA Tour. Like we said it about Cantlay a couple of years ago, right? Like, great, you've won the FedEx Cup, you've won this, that, and the other. Can you go and do it in a major? And although Cantlay's not won a major, he has contended at Pinehurst and played better in them. I do think, though, Sam, the next 2 majors are really good for Joaquin Niemann, both of them. I think the US Open and the US PGA. Okay. I expect him to be in the mix.
All right. Okay, big talk. We will see. Right, I'm going to take us on to our In the News section. I'm going to open up with the fact that Xander Schauffele released an official app last week. And I wanted to ask, Ben, is there genuinely an appetite for this? Because it feels odd to me. And I want to know also who you think is going to be the next golfer to release their official app.
No, I really don't know. But no, surely there's no appetite for it. I mean, we have to be careful. People might say, "Oh, was there an appetite for another golf podcast in a saturated market?" Maybe not. The thing is, it just makes you think of the Ron Burgundy thing, or actually the Ricky Gervais reading, philosophy during the job interview, the job check-in. It's like, when Xander Schauffele, right? Please download the Xander Schauffele app. It is a really good way to stay on top of all of my form, and we'll have competitions and everything. Thank you, guys. And it's like, mate, come on, stick to what
he
you
doesn't want
at.
to be doing that, surely. I don't know whose idea it was. I'm sure it wasn't his idea. But,
it'll be Stefan Schauffele's idea, won't it? It'll be Dad's idea.
This is Stefan Schauffele, who you once thought was an Olympic javelin thrower, right?
Is he not?
No, I looked this up afterwards. I forgot to say, actually, in the following podcast. I did look this up, and actually there's some truth, but it's not quite right. So it's his grandfather who was a Olympic javelin thrower.
Okay,
not
Stefan Schauffele just throws daggers instead and builds apps. Yeah, ridiculous, really. I might download it and have a play around, though, and see what content we can get. Maybe we'll release a sliced app one day.
The next thing I wanted to say, and this was sad for me to say, really, because I'm a massive fan of his. Mike Lorenzo-Vera announced his retirement last week, and it was funny, actually, the timing, because it was just days after the fact that I incorrectly pinned him as a DP World Tour winner. Maybe he was so upset by that realizing that he hadn't, that he decided to throw in the towel.
That's exactly what's happened. What other conclusion can we have? Yeah, very, very popular. I think I remember the interview when he just missed out on winning. I think it was the Roccoforte Open at the time in Sicily, and I think he lost a playoff or he lost by a shot. And always wore his heart on his sleeve. One of the best short games on the DP World Tour. I'm sure whatever he does next, he'll make a success of it because he's just got real charisma. I think I've spoken to a few people who've met him. And he's hugely popular. So whether he goes into commentating, coaching, whether he decides he wants to get away and join Victor de Buisson on a boat somewhere, he'll do well, I'm sure.
He's a real straight talker as well. I like that about him. He wasn't afraid to sort of give his opinions, his honest opinions about things.
Just loves the game.
Sorry?
Just loves the game, doesn't he? And that
he does.
You bet that. Were you saying he's a straight talker? Like that comes through, doesn't it?
It does. The other thing to say about him, which is just a slightly random tangent, but we once had a debate. Well, not really a debate. I posted... So Shane Lowry, after the Ryder Cup, posted a picture of his breakfast the next morning, right? And it was what I described as a pan au chocolat on a plate. And I made a joke about the fact that, that's not gonna do much, Shane. Anyway, Mike Lorenzo-Vera corrected me very quickly on Twitter and said, that's not a pan au chocolat. That is a chocolatine.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Could you explain the distinction briefly?
He didn't really. I did a little bit of research, and to me, it just looks like sort of half a pan au chocolat, but I'm sure there's more to it. But anyway, the fact is, I enjoyed the fact that he took the time to sort of correct me on that, and I will try not to make that mistake again. I can't make any promises to any French listeners that I won't make that mistake again, because it does look very similar. But anyway.
I'm going to try and catch my dad out on that. He's very proud of his sort of French roots. And next time he says, do you want a pan au chocolat? I'll say, no, but have you got any chocolatine? Yeah, good. Good luck to Mike Lorenzo-Vera, MLB.
Yes. Indeed, right. So a couple of other things to mention. So the DP World Tour confirmed last week that the DP World India Championship is going to take place October the 16th to the 19th at Delhi Golf Club, which is one of my favourite venues on the DP World Tour. And Rory McIlroy is apparently expected to commit. He hasn't officially committed, but there seems to be widely rumoured. So that will obviously give it a bit of, bit of a lift. But I'm looking forward to seeing that course in action again.
Yeah, totally. For those who don't know, it's very old-fashioned, very tight. If you stray more than 10 yards from the fairway, you're probably reloading, aren't you? You'd very gladly get stuck into SSP Chorrazia.
I was going to say, that's the
about
he's
28 to 1 if this was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's great. It is so much better. Sorry, but it's so much better. Orders of magnitude better than DLF, G and C or whatever it's called. So yeah, great.
You're going to get another letter from Gary Player in this, right, Ben?
I know, sorry. But yeah, it's great. It's great. And it's good that the DP World Tour have added the event. Liv went to India and got a really good crowd, and having I think it wasn't Liv, was it? It was the international series on the Asian tour, and Bryson drew a really big crowd, as you'd expect, and so will Rory McIlroy, and that's great. I'm all for any tour supporting emerging markets like India, where there are lots of very good golf courses, none more historic than Delhi GC.
Yeah, it's classic. Last thing to mention before we move on to our mailbag. So a new Tour Championship format is to be announced soon. So Adam Schupak of Golf Week did a report last week, and it sounds like there'll be no starting strokes. Great, I think we can all agree. No match play, maybe a slight disappointment, I would say. And according to Kevin Kisner, who's on the board, the player board, he said there's going to be a cut to a round of 16 on Friday. 8 will play Saturday, and the top 4 are going to duke it out on Sunday. And then 5 to 8 in the standings will also play on Sunday, just for kind of for the money and the final rankings. They won't be able to sort of win, which So I don't know. I'm not completely sold in it. It seems quite popularly received on Twitter from what I saw, but I'm still.
Well,
not
that's because what
sold.
they've got now is completely rubbish, isn't it?
Well,
so anything that improves upon that. I've not read the story, so I apologise, and I know we've not got long on it, but if there's no handicapping at all at any stage, what we're saying is you could have 4 players who finish sort of 25th and higher in the FedEx Cup up to Eastlake playing on Sunday to be crowned the winner of the season-long prize without having had to overcome anything more than those. So there's no difference. If there's no difference between being first and 28th going in to Eastlake, I think that's a problem. That is a problem because people will be thinking, "Oh, great, Scheffler, McIlroy, Schauffele, and Cantlay, or whatever on a Sunday, the 4 of them separated by 1 or 2 shots. That'll be great, and it would be great. But what if it's not them? I don't like starting strokes, by the way. I just wonder if those guys should only have to join in on, the top 10 should have to join in after 1 round or something. And I don't know. What I think I'm arguing for here is the Cyprus Showdown, God forbid. But I hope they refine it a bit and find a way to reward those further up if they can.
The Cyprus Showdown, sponsored by FedEx. I'm in.
I'm in. Let's get back to Aphrodite Hills.
Right. Right, onto our mailbag. So a new little feature for us as there's no DP World Tour event this week. I'm going to start off with a question we got from David Beard on Facebook. So this is a good time to say we have got a Facebook page as well as Twitter and YouTube and stuff. So he asked, with the Zurich Classic on at the moment, do you think both tours should consider incorporating some other innovative events to the schedule, e.g. Belgian Knockout, Scandinavian Mixed? Would be interesting to see LPGA and PGA players playing a mixed event for the same trophy. Any thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, well, obviously they've redone the QBE shootout now, so we do get that. It's just not an official part of the PGA Tour season. I think that's a really good improvement to the QBE shootout to have men and women alongside each other. I thought it was
the Grant Thornton Invitational that Jake Knapp won.
Patty Tavatanakit and Jake Knapp won it at the end of last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. The problem with all these things, putting them in the season, I think there's probably not a lot of room at the moment in terms of the timing. Like, where would you actually have it? Maybe you have to do it at the start of the season. Maybe in January, that's something you could incorporate. And sponsors will be wary of it because anything seen as gimmicky or that might have some underlying goodness that will elevate the game over a longer period, the sponsor wants the immediate return, right? So there are some problems, but the answer is yes, I would love to see it. I just think first I'd like to see more match play. That would be my number one. So yeah, I don't know exactly how, but definitely I think we should have men and women playing together more. And obviously now the Olympics has given us something to work towards with that. Like, I'd like to see them not just turn up there having never done it really. Like, great if we can have an event, an all-star event, best PGA Tour, best LPGA players, something, I don't know. But yeah, it'd be great.
Well, yeah, no, it was good. I'm glad you mentioned that, Ben, because we were supposed to mention that, I think, a week or two ago, and I think we didn't have time. But yeah, the Olympics did announce that there is going to be a mixed team event in the LA Olympics, so that's good. That's on top of the existing male and female events, which is good. The one that I would say that I'd quite like to see, a lot of people have said in recent President's Cup, have said, oh, why don't we make this a mixed event? I don't think we should do that. I like the President's Cup as it is, but I wouldn't be averse to another event being added. I don't know where you fit it in, that is like the President's Cup, but it's mixed. I don't think it'll ever happen, but
mixed formats and what have you. Yeah, I like that. Just on the Olympics quickly, that's going to be amazing.
That'd be great.
It's going to be so good to have team golf for the Olympics without getting into what really constitutes team golf with meaning. That means a lot to the people and is actual team golf, not just the amalgamation of separate scores.
Yes.
Like they're playing alternate shot or they're playing four balls, whatever the format is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. It'll be fantastic.
Agreed. And at Riviera as well. I mean,
yeah.
Cracking. Right, next question. Harry Boyd asks, best player to never win a major, Monty or Westwood? Nice simple one, Ben.
Oh, you tell me. I don't know. I would err towards Westwood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say, I don't have a strong view on this, I will say, but I'm just purely looking at stats. Westwood has 19 major top 10s, Monty has 10. And also, to throw in the fact that Westwood had a much larger crossover with Tiger Woods in that sort of era. They're similar age, aren't they? Whereas Monty, a lot of his years were before Tiger was at his prime. So I'd lean Westwood, but I don't have a strong view.
Yeah, same. I'm just thinking now, like Monty came closer to winning a major, and it shows you like we tend to, probably rightly in this case, if either one of them had won a major, it wouldn't be a contest. So the fact that Monty came so close, maybe you're supposed to say Monty, but I agree with you. I think Westwood played in a more competitive, many of Tiger Woods' peak years, and then along comes Rory McIlroy. He played in a generally stronger period, I'd say, and did everything but win a major. Yeah. Very similar though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's a tough one. Good question. Right, so next one, Carl Warsaw. Do you think PGA Tour / DP World Tour players are aware of their form at a course or correlating form at related courses the way the handicappers and punters are? Brackets, Minwoo had to be convinced to enter Houston as an example.
Not correlating form. I don't think they'd think, oh, well, this leaderboard is similar to the Singapore Classic or whatever. Nothing like that, no. But they're definitely more and more aware of their course suitability. The best players in the world have people telling them that. They have people telling them how to play holes, let alone which tournaments to enter in the first place. But that is only one part of the whole bigger picture of scheduling, right? Rory McIlroy, for a long time, didn't want to play Phoenix because of where it sat in the schedule, but he will have had his stats guy telling him this course is perfect for you. So it's not as simple as I'll go to the courses that work for me. It's like, okay, and at a lower level on the DP World Tour, do I want to go to China for 1 week? Am I going to stay for 2? Do I want to? There's a lot that goes into it, but they're very aware of what courses suit them, and not only that, how best to attack a golf course.
Yeah, I think Jake Knapp, who made reference to the fact, so he won the Mexico Open last year, and I'm sure that he was interviewed at some point before that, and he said, "Oh, I was told that I should play that because, or something that I'd seen that it was a long hitters course, and I decided I better go down and play that event." He probably would have played it anyway because it was his first year on tour, and it's sort of one of the sort of smaller events. But they definitely are aware, I think, of the courses that are likely to suit. But you make a valid point, Ben. It's not always as simple as that. But yeah, correlation. I can't see that really being a thing. That's very much a kind of punters only thing. I think
totally. Good example is what we've already discussed. Delhi, right? Rory McIlroy is not going to Delhi because he's been told the course fits. You can't draw up a course which is worse for him on paper, still be the best player in the field, obviously, so he might win. But he's going there because someone will have paid him nicely to be there. So there are a multitude of other factors. And this week, Scotty Scheffler's playing the Byron Nelson. It's not because Craig Ranch fits more than whatever. It's because it's in Texas. It means a lot to him. It fits in nicely with his schedule, post-Masters, pre-PGA, etc.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Harry,
they know that.
Sorry, Ben. All right. So Harry McKenzie, do you expect to see a first-time winner of a major this year? And if so, who are the likely contenders and at which major? And he says, example, Homer at Quail Hollow, teethy grin face.
Do I expect it? I wouldn't say I expect it because it'll be less than a 50% chance, I would say. When you only got to put Scheffler and McIlroy together, you've probably got about 40% of the market for Quail Hollow. Not quite, So I wouldn't say I expect it. Obviously, you've got 3 majors, but it is certainly possible. I think the top 2 candidates for me are Ludwig Åberg and, controversially perhaps, Joaquin Niemann, as I've said already. How about you? You're going to have a more creative name to throw into this mix. I mean, we'd all love it to be Tommy and Tyrrell or Tyrrell. Like I'm on them anti-post for Quail Hollow. But there are quite a few options here, aren't there?
What are you expecting me to say, Ben? Like Kazuma Kabori or something? I only do that for fancy.
Someone who's in the field, but I
actually don't have
you might have someone more interesting than Ludwig Åberg.
No, I don't have a strong opinion. I mean, really, Quail Hollow, I don't think is going to be won by a first-time major winner because I think there are too many good existing major winners who have got good, great form of that course. So I think you're looking at people like we've talked about it recently, haven't we? You're looking at your Rorys, you're looking at your JTs. Obviously, you've still got Scheffler. I don't see it happening on that type of course. I'll be honest. And then, the other 2, Oakmont. Yeah, Oakmont is possible. I think that actually is a course that could suit Åberg pretty well, and he's definitely the most likely. No question in my mind that he's the most likely. Niemann, I give a reasonable chance to. I'm not quite as bullish as you. I don't think on his chance. I think he needs a sort of top 10 in a major first before he's going to win one. Like I don't think he's going to go from, I don't know what his best is now, is it like 25th or something? I don't think he's going to go from that to winning.
Now, but yeah.
I could be wrong. But actually, it's interesting the example that Harry's given here about Max Homer at Quail Hollow. Go back a year, if Quail Hollow had been the PGA Championship venue last year, a lot of people would have been on him. I think this year, obviously, he had a solid Masters, didn't he? This year, which slightly out of the blue. But I think very few people will be looking at him thinking, "Yeah, I'm going to back him at Quail Hollow," because there's too many question marks over his game. Right. Next question, Gareth Fenton. Of the current crop of players who have won 1 major, who do you think is most likely to double their tally, and which ones do you think are nailed on to stay on 1?
What do you think, Sam? He says to buy himself time.
Well, I think in terms of, I'll answer the second part of the question first. Who's nailed on to stay on 1? If we're looking at current crop of players, and I'm going for low-hanging fruit here. Jason Duffner is not going to win another major.
That doesn't count. You said current crop.
What is current crop? Current crop for me is someone who's not yet on the Champions Tour, right?
Current crop. I love that. Current crop. Okay, Jason Duffner, fair.
Jimmy Walker. Okay, no, all right. Okay, I'll give it a serious one. I don't think. I've got a list here because I thought I want to be caught out on this one. I don't think that Adam Scott is going to win another major. Fair. I mean, I know that, again, he's probably a similar age bracket to the people I've mentioned, but he's probably more someone that you'd say has got a realistic chance of winning another major. But I don't think I think he's probably done on the major front. In the terms of the players who I do think will win another one, who have won, Hideki, I'll be amazed if he finishes his career with just 1 major. Shane Lowry, I'd be surprised if he finishes his career with 1 major. I mean, he could well win another one this year, in my mind. I mean, if he keeps playing as he is, and with some of the venues that are coming up, and I think Justin Rose, I have a sneaky feeling that he might pick up another one because he's targeting those events solely. So yeah, right. I've given you enough time, Ben.
Lovely dash of Monday optimism. I'll say Cam Smith stays on 1 after he disappointed me at the Masters. Yeah. Who's going to double their tally? I'm trying to think desperately of all the players who have 1 major who are really, really good. and I can't really at the moment. But I would say Shane Lowry has an excellent chance to double his major. Obviously, he's a bit older. You'd be better off choosing someone younger. Um, I just can't think of any. But yeah,
Do you want me to tell you some, Ben?
he's got 10. Yeah, go on. Go on.
Okay. Well, he's a hero one-time major winners, so I'll go for some of the youngest. Garcia,
No.
Patrick Reed, Gary Woodland,
No.
Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, and then several others who are a bit slightly older.
Yeah, I think Shane's the right one because he loves Augusta, and every Open Championship he will have some sort of chance. He goes to Oakmont. We've discussed it. That was his first sort of chance to win a major. Quail Hollow, fine. Shane Lowry's rock solid, isn't he? There's no reason he couldn't win another one. But I think if you want someone who I think is probably going to stay on one who's still sort of active and competitive at a high level, I think Cam Smith probably struggles to double up.
Okay. Right, next question. Oliver Inwards. We're staying on major theme here. So now Rory has won his next major / Grand Slam. What's the next thing you emotionally want to see happen in golf?
Tommy Fleetwood to win on the PGA Tour.
Nice. Okay, yeah, I like
sick
that.
of having to defend him. I had to have the argument the other day. If him and Garrick Higgo are tied for the lead with 9 holes to go, and they're even money each of 2, who would you bet on? I'm afraid if you say Garrick Higgo, you are completely and utterly wrong.
I mean, they've both got great hair. Can I just say?
They have. It's not. You end up. The problem when you get into these debates is you end up having to go at someone you like and admire. And I do like Garrick Higgo, but Tommy Fleetwood's a better golfer, Sam.
Yes.
I just like to make that clear. And then just to remind you, he's beaten Rory He birdie to beat Rory McIlroy. It just didn't happen in America. So yeah. I would like Tommy Fleetwood to win on the PGA Tour. Ideally, it would happen in a major, but I'll take anything at this point.
I agree with that, Ben. I think that's a great one. The only one I would add to that is Justin Rose to win the Masters. Or another major, but I think ideally the Masters. I think that would cap off his career very, very nicely, and especially after sort of the heartache of this year. So that's my answer. Right, last question of our mailbag. So Will Murray asks, with Rory completing the career Grand Slam, who do you think is next to do it if someone does in the near future? Spieth needing the PGA Championship, Rahm needs 2, Xander needs 2, Brooks needs 2, and others who I will have forgotten. The 2 that he has forgotten there are Morikawa and DJ, who've both got 2. But what are your thoughts, Ben?
Well, this allows me to mention that I did a poll after John Rahm won the Masters asking which of these 4 players is most likely to complete the career Grand Slam or to complete it first, whatever it was. And Rory McIlroy was 3rd and Jordan Spieth was 4th, and the 1st and 2nd were Rahm and Koepka, who at the time had 2 of the 4 majors, and the 2 players who already had 3 of the 4 were quite considerably, in Rory's case, less likely. And you can say it's after timing, but if you go into the thread of replies there, I made the point that the number one answer should be Rory. It's very simple. He's going to go to the Masters every year as a 8 to 14 to 1 chance, right? It's winning the Open, is really hard. You need for Rahm and Koepka. You're going to need a lot of luck to win an Open. Rory got it in 2014. He got rain, he got calm, perfect, and he went and won an Open. He got unlucky at St Andrews 4 years before, didn't he, with the win? So to win an Open is most great players don't win the Open, right? Most of them don't. The very greatest do, but and that's going to be, for me, is the most fascinating thing about the rest of Scottie Scheffler's career. I think Scottie Scheffler is more likely to win a Grand Slam than Rahm, Xander, or Brooks, and he's only on one of the 4. So that goes against what I've already said about McIlroy, but we're lower down that scale. I don't know. I mean, if I had to choose someone, I'd choose Spieth because he only has to win 1 tournament and it takes place in 3 weeks. You?
Well, you see, I had a look at Spieth. I did a little bit of research on this question because I wanted to give a kind of qualified answer, and I've looked at the future site. I mean, there's a lot of future sites for the PGA Championship. They go a long way into the future, but looking at the ones that have been announced so far, none of them really jump off the page as being Spieth tracks, with the possible exception, I'd say, of Olympic Club, which is in, I don't even know what year it is, maybe 4 or 5 years' time. I think that could suit him, but a lot of the course. The problem with the PGA Championship, I think Spieth excels on on a sort of tough test where you need really good short game, maybe take the driver out of the hand, and the PGA Championship is generally the lowest scoring of the majors, and I think that's where you get the kind of a different type of player tends to win. That's not to say he can't do it, but that's all I got to say.
I do think that the PGA has become sort of the midpoint of PGA Tour events and the US Open. It's become like a bit of both. It's like the course will be longer than your average PGA Tour event, but the rough won't be as thick as the US Open and so on. So you get a lot of longer, strong drivers who do it. And Spieth's been driving the ball very well for a long time now. So I think Spieth is... And I just want to revise, I'm not certain I feel what I said before about Scheffler being more likely than Rahm. The point I wanted to make there is that winning the Open is going to be really hard for all these guys. McIlroy may end up the only player of this generation's great players, bar Morikawa, who wins it. I can't, unless I've missed one. And Spieth, if you include him as one of them.
This is why my answer to the question to the question would actually be Xander, because he's knocked off the Open already.
That's definitely fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's got a solid record at the Masters. He's got a very good record at the. Which one is he? What's the other one he's missing? PGA Championship.
No, the US Open.
Sorry,
he's missing
US Open.
His US Open record is ridiculously good.
US Open is very, very strong. So there's no. And he's still reasonably young. So for me, he's got
his own app. So
exactly. I mean, I can't wait to read about the career Grand Slam on the Xander Schauffele app.
There's a tracker tracking my progress towards the career Grand Slam. Sam, you have absolutely nailed that. You are correct. The most likely to complete the career Grand Slam is Xander Schauffele. Well done.
Thanks. I hope that answered your question, Will. Right. That is the end of our mailbag for now, so there will be other ones, I'm sure, in the future. Take us on to the world of golf this week. First event to mention, the PGA Tour. Is in Texas for the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Any immediate thoughts on this one, Ben? Obviously, Taylor Pendrith won last year. I'm thinking you want to be able to hit it reasonably far off the tee and maybe good putters.
Yes, to some extent, you would think that. And Pendrith's interesting because last year he became a really good putter, and it sort of went missing again. His good and his bad have been a long way apart. When you think about how he won really because Ben Coles gifted it to him, and Ben Coles would be almost the sort of diametric opposite of Taylor Pendrith. Aaron Rai was in contention. There's been a real mixture here. It's one of those, we talked last week about the course in Hainan and potentially suiting the bigger hitters, which it definitely did. I mean, I hope they keep going back there. This course, where everyone hits the fairway a lot, I think it's probably one of those that neutralises it a bit, because I think we've seen enough really good iron players who get hot with a putter. I think this is one of the most open PGA Tour events of the year, because of its sort of nature, its low scoring and the course. It's the very worst time to go back in Scotty Scheffler at 11-4. Like, I know he's desperate to win and he can win by 10. There's not a good field, but honestly, if he just has one quiet putting day, it might do for him. So,
I mean, this is. Am I correct in saying this would be his shortest price of the year?
So far, yeah, it definitely will be. I suppose, it definitely will be.
And then, so it'd be interesting. I mean, if he doesn't win this week, there's already people sort of saying, "Oh no," I kind of in tongue-in-cheek way, but people say, "Oh, Scotty's washed," after an amazing year last year. He's obviously
like Phil
not
Mickelson here.
But he's obviously not washed. But if he goes another event that he's strong favourite to win and he doesn't win, it does start to mount up. I will say.
Let's say he finishes 10th, Sam.
Yep.
Who's favourite for the USPGA?
Rory McIlroy. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm not really I'm not a profiler in that sense of being able to give accurate prices. I know some people are very good at that, aren't they? You can kind of put a price, but you probably have a better sense. What do you think?
I think it'd be very close, but I think Scheffler would probably be slight favourite.
I think it's still
very, very, very close. I'm talking on the exchange. I would imagine Scheffler slightly, but if he misses the cut, then we're talking. But it's an interest. We're finally at that point, aren't we, where you can debate who the best player in the world is. So I think actually a lot of like any ranking that takes in more than about 24 rounds of golf is going to have Scheffler. Simple as that. But there'll be a lot of like man in the street will simply go, no, it's obviously McIlroy. Yeah. So there are two very strong cases on each side there. But this week's tournament is, I not want to take too seriously.
The next events to mention. So the Corn Ferry Tour is the Tulum Championship. I've actually been to Tulum, Ben. You been to Tulum?
I'd never heard it until this very moment. So
No,
where is Tulum? Tennessee or something?
It's in Mexico. It's sort of Riviera Maya in Mexico. And it's
they're
it's
going
sort
to
of
Mexico.
like I would probably describe it as a sort of smaller scale Chichen Itza.
I haven't heard of that either, Sam. So could you say
come
somewhere I
on,
know?
Ben. You've got to heard of that. That's
Did
like
you
one of the
say the
most
word
famous landmarks in the world.
Chichen Itza.
I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Are you razzing me? Am I being razzed here? I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's certainly not. It's certainly not a raz. It's entirely possible my pronunciation is not right. But anyway, the Tulum Championship is happening this week. I believe it's the inaugural event on the Corn Ferry Tour. On the Corn Ferry Tour. But I don't know much about this one. I'll be honest. But I'll be interested to watch and think about my lovely trip to Tulum back in 2010. Right, the LPGA. You looking up? You look like you're looking up landmarks in Mexico.
Riviera Maya. Is this? This is completely different than to the El Camaleon, right?
Yes, yeah. Different track.
Why do they call so many golf courses Riviera Maya? Maybe that means golf course.
No, that's the area in Mexico. It's like that kind of strip down in the coastal.
Right.
It's sort of the equivalent of saying the Dalmatian coast.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm learning here, but I'm trying to find out what the course is like. But it looks a bit like El Camaleon. A lot of water. Yeah. Good. I wish everybody well in Mexico, in Tulum.
Right. So the other two events to mention. So the LPGA is the Black Desert Championship. This is not a major. I'll just say it's not a major. I'm not missing this. This is the inaugural Black Desert Championship, which same course which hosted a PGA Tour event last year, which Matt McCarty won. So quite a nice course, if I remember correctly. It's slightly easy for a PGA Tour level, but lovely views, mountain views, and sort of volcanic rock and stuff. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, that was a good course last year, wasn't it? I enjoyed that. So yeah, we'll see how they go. I've nothing more to tell you about Tulum. The course looked like you could have just drawn it up in a sort of put it into a like Chat GPT and say, "Do me a Corn Ferry Tour course." It kind of looks like one of those.
Just hopefully not one where -30 is going to win.
I think -22. I'll say, Sam.
Okay, good. Last event to mention, Live is in Korea. I can't actually remember what course it's at. I don't know if you have any info on this one, Ben.
Sorry, Sam. No, I don't. Look, I just came back off holiday and you're expecting me to know where they're playing on Live. This is ridiculous.
It's quite rare for them to play back-to-back weeks, I believe. But
they're playing Jack Nicklaus Golf Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's where they used to play in Incheon. So yeah, they play the DP World Tour event there. Good. Yeah.
So Joaquin Niemann might pick up his 6th win. We'll see.
Might do.
Right. Quickly talk about our player tracker before we do a fancy update. So Elvis Smiley, it was an interesting week for him actually because he was in the penultimate group on Sunday. He put in a really good performance and then he fell off completely on Sunday, unfortunately, and finished tied 16th. So that was a shame. But he's playing very well at the moment. He's definitely one to monitor. I did think that those events in China might suit him. I would say, and it's easy to say in hindsight. Obviously, I had him in my team last week. The week before. But I do think that he's one to monitor over the next few weeks, as long as the tournament suits, the course suits.
Short gamey course. I think you want a short gamey course.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm sure there are some of those coming up. So.
And your man Angel Ayora has teamed up with Del Rey, and they missed the cut unfortunately at the Zurich. So maybe the gamble of heading over to America didn't pay off.
Yeah, and look, the golf course last week, we now know for sure would have suited both of them. So I think it was a mistake, but it's easy now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Right. So fancy update. So you may be waiting, if you've had a good Asian swing so far, you may be waiting to hear your name, and we can reveal the winner of our first competition, and this winner will win 4 tickets, well, all access tickets.
2 tickets
to an
for
event.
4 days.
Sorry, that's what I mean. For an event of their choice, and I think maybe if you reach out to us, maybe send us a DM on Twitter or Facebook or something, we can link you up and get that sorted. So I'll go through the top 3 on that final Asia Swing leaderboard. I'll do it in reverse order just for a little bit of suspense. So in third was our good friend, this name we hear quite a lot, Garvin Howarth, 4,659 points. Well done, Garvin. Second place was Helen Goodwill, just 2 more points than Garvin, so 4,661 points. And first place, and winning those tickets, is Mark Healy with 4,702 points. So it was pretty close in the end, but well done, Mark, and enjoy whichever event you choose to go to later this year.
Yeah, I think the top 4 all finished in the top 100 of each of the 5 events out of 250 odd people or whatever it was. So yeah, well done. Tremendous effort.
Yes. And then I will just mention quickly, so our overall leader is Garvin Howarth, who is chased closely by Lewis Blaine, who has obviously been at the top for quite a long time. So there's a bit of a fight going on at the top there, and obviously a long way to go. Right. Highest bidder, Ben. We have got a topic that arrived via Facebook this week, and this is our topic, if you are ready. Right, we've got a Ryder Cup 1. So, since 1979, there has been 22 Ryder Cups. How many of the captains who were against each other can you name, not including this year's match? Captains that were against each other. Does that mean we have to name the sort of
captains?
The pair?
You have to name pairs, surely.
Not pairs.
How many? Let's just say individuals, shall we, Sam?
Individual captains.
We're massively out of time, so you got pen and paper.
I have.
Go on, write your answer down.
Okay.
I'm showing the camera again because I'm poorly organised.
I'm going.
I really
8.
want you to do it. Oh,
what have you said, Ben?
7. 7. I said 7.
Oh no. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's go. So I'm allowed Luke Donald from last year, aren't I? Zach Johnson.
Yeah, from last year. Yeah, go on.
Yep.
This is easy.
Then we've got Paul McGinley, Sam Torrance, Mark James, Hal Sutton, I'm definitely missing some obvious ones here. Who was captain? Wait. No, I'm not going to say a stupid one. I was nearly said a stupid one there. Nick Faldo.
There you go. You've done it.
Is that it?
You need one more. You said 8, did you? Sorry. Yeah.
I said 8. Yeah.
Very pro-European here.
I know. Part of me wants to say Paul Azinger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
Okay.
Well done.
Oh, great. Oh, okay. I surprised myself then. I'm surprised because A, I expected you to go a lot higher, and B, because I actually managed to get some points.
I can now tell you this, Sam. I did have 10 for YouTube viewers. I'd gone 10. But I feel like I've been going a little bit high lately, and you've not really had a go. So I get told off for like hogging game time in all my walks of life.
Well, thank you, Ben. I mean, I
don't want this to come across like I'm pitying you.
No, I know
it's not the case at all. But well done.
Well, you're on 26 points and I'm on 16, so you still got a bit of a lead.
Ooh,
so I think next time you can stick with your the score that you do actually put up. Right. We are rapidly running out of time. Thank you to everyone for sending in your questions. I will echo Ben's earlier sentiments about please leave us a review and a rating. These things do massively help. We do hope to keep going for as long as humanly possible. We are enjoying Sliced, and we hope you are too. And we look forward to chatting next week.